Arknights.
Hello everybody, I'm Loboroda and welcome to a second part of the Operator Spotlight. So in the first part I talked about Platinum, and you can find a link on this on top. I also did a lore video for her, so you can also find that in the description. And this is like a two-series part. I do an Operator Spotlight, which will focus on the character's stats, skills, skins, and usages, and another video series where I talk about the lore of the specific character. And Platinum was the character that I really liked, and apparently you also really liked because you really watched that video. And on Twitter I asked what kind of other operator I should do, and you voted for Mostima. So this time around we will check out Mostima. We will check her skills, her stats, her usage, and rank her accordingly and show a bit the use cases you can do with her. So let's check her out. So Mostima is a 6-star caster operator, and there are already things that stand out in her character model when you look at her, which is, first off, she has horns like a Sarkas, but at the same time has an halo. So she seems like a pretty interesting race, but we won't talk about this here. Also, she has 2 staffs that you can see behind her. So dual casting, something like that might be something she's doing. Let's see. Her design is pretty simple in terms of clothes. It's very normal clothes, normal jacket, nothing really standing out. Her main features are really those kind of 2 race combination and 2 staff combination, and obviously the long blue hair that stands out. So let's check her stats. You can directly see from her stats that she is an AoE caster. She has a short range, high DP cost, but also a high ATK for non-elite level 50. Nearly 500 is very high. Not even some elite 2 operators reach that. She has 10 resistance, which is also great, and the rest of her stats are pretty normal. So even on non-elite level 50 she can really do some damage. In her elite 1 level 80, all her major stats increases. She's nearly at 650 ATK at 630. Her DP increases obviously, but also her resistance goes up, so she's now at 15 resistance, which is a very good resistance stat for a caster. Her range filled up, as we all know from normal AoE casters, so she now has her 3x3 grit. Not much more to say here, pretty standard, but she really bumps up her ATK. So let's see what she will do at Elite 2 level 90. So before we talk about the stats, damn, that's an amazing artwork. So Mostima is pretty small in this artwork because it focuses more on other elements. Like her mastery over time, she has a lot of time related skills, is clearly shown with this huge clock in the background. This monster that's being summoned, which is something we will come back to in the lore video, and you just have to deal with it for now. And she is using both of her staffs. Also something interesting, her halo changes. So now it's not just a simple small halo, but it's actually multiple halos interacting with each other. That's pretty interesting, and it showcased something that could be very interesting for the whole angel race in Arknights. But now let's focus on the stats. So she goes up to 750 ATK and actually goes up to 20 resistance. There are not that many casters that get 5 resistance with each promotion, and that is, I would say, one of her strong points. 20 resistance is a very high resistance stat. She doesn't increase that much in her ATK from Elite 1 to Elite 2, so maxing her out is really not that important to make her useful. The rest is okay, but still those very high DP is what drags her down a bit, and we will see later what I mean by that. Even though she has a high ATK, her skills and her usage is not really supporting her in a good way. Maxing out her potential and increasing her trust really gives her another ATK bump, bringing her up to close to 900 ATK. 889 is very high. I think the only other caster that can compare against this ATK value is Ifrit. All the others are below. So she is focused on dealing damage, and also her lore later on will emphasize this, And because of that, that's kind of what is a bit sad about her, because her skill set is not really supporting her in this regard. So let's jump into the skill set so you see what I mean. As all 6-star characters, she has 3 skills. She gets 1 by default, 1 for Elite 1 and 1 for Elite 2. So let's check them out in order. Attack Up is our normal attack up skill. It increases the ATK by 100%. It needs 30 points to start. You start with 15 on a maxed out version and it lasts for 30 seconds. Nothing unusual here. Let's go into the second one. Lock of Shattered Time. This stuns all enemy units within range and deals 140% ATK as arts damage per second to affected targets. This is a very cool skill and a very useful one. So not only is it a stun, but it's a range area stun that lasts for a while. It is only 6 seconds, but those 6 seconds can be a lot. It needs 50 points to load up and you start with 30. And I think that's what takes this skill a bit back, because 140% ATK damage is not so much. You don't increase her attack speed or anything like that, so it stays as it is. So it's only a bit of an increase in damage. The stun is great for sure, but with the 50 points to load up, you can't use it that often. And the stun is the best thing in her skill set, I would say. Let's jump to the third one, Key of Chronology. Attack range increases, attacks turn into ripples that spread outwards, attack plus 170%, increases the effect of the second talent by 3 times, and attacks knock targets back slightly. So we ignore the talent effect because I haven't talked about that yet. The attack range increases and you can see it gets like an outer ring on her normal range, which is great, especially for an AoE caster. 170% ATK is also very good, and it has a slight knockback. Now, the issue for me is 110 points to load up. You start with 80, so you have that relatively quick after deploying, but you won't get it a second time, or rarely you will get it a second time. It goes into the same direction as the second skill. It is a great skill, but it's just not there often enough. Her second talent is something that slows down enemy, and increasing that is also great. But the issue that Mostima has, in my opinion, is that she does several things mediocre to good, but not great. She has a stun that she can bring out, but someone like Texas can stun, someone like Chen can stun, and what Angelina does with her skill 3 is nearly a stun, and all of them are cheaper and faster. The Key of Chronology, the strongest part about this, in my opinion, is the uniquest part is the knockback, but there are so many other operators who have a better knockback, and putting her into a position where she can actually utilize this knockback is very hard. Of course, the damage she can do is great, but other operators can outdamage her with the right skills, and also just in terms of DP to damage. With her very high DP cost, there's not much she can do to decrease that and to make her more viable. Let's check the talents next to see if she can really bump up her usage there. Mostima has 2 talents. Skill Aura Caster. When deployed, increases the SP recovery rate of all casters by 0.4 per second. Only the highest effect of this type takes place, which is something that you have seen probably in a couple of operators. There are multiple operators that have a certain increased SP recovery for certain classes. It is nice for sure, but once again, with her high DP costs, having her in with a lot of other casters to really utilize that, not really going to happen. And the second is Subjective Time Dilation. Slows the movement speed of enemies within this unit's attack range by 18%. This is probably her best skill, talent, however you want to call that, because slowing down enemies is always a great thing. However, since her range is so small, it doesn't affect that many enemies. and this is the effect that then will be increased times 3 with the key of chronology, which is a great increase and really slows down the enemy, but then again, hard to use only once. Now let's have a look at all of this together. Her stats clearly show that she wants to be a high damage dealer. Her skills are more crowd control and utility, but her stun is great in 1 or 2 scenarios, and otherwise there are other operators that do it better, or you don't actually need a stun. Her skill 3 has a knockback and a slowdown, which you can also only use once, where other operators can do it better. Her talents are supporting other operators, where she usually will probably be more the only or one of 2 casters given the circumstances. And the slow is nice, but with her limited range she can't utilize it very well. So she covers a lot of areas, but none of them to an expert level. So what does that mean overall from my point of view? If you get her early on, she's a great operator because she can cover several aspects of the game that you want to be covered. But as soon as you get your roster filed up with other characters, you see that there are other characters that are just better for cheaper or cover other areas even better than Mostima does. I think she just needs to either decrease a bit her cost of her skills, or they need to do more damage, or she needs to be cheaper. Like one of those, a combination of those would really increase her, because she's just lacking a bit to make her great, and you can see that when you watch videos of players playing, which kind of operators are used. Mostima is not really high up. I try to bring her on from time to time because I do like the character from a design point of view and also from a lore point of view, but it always feels like you're hurting yourself a bit to bring her in instead of, for example, Angelina, who will deal more damage, has more slow, which nearly goes into stun, is way cheaper. It's just, since they're on the same level, a great comparison, to be honest. Or someone like HF Yadla will deal way more damage in a wider area and is also cheaper, loads up faster. So she just has some issues there on those fronts. But let's see her in action so you get a feeling for what she can do and what she can't do. Once again, I don't show the first skill because it's just a normal attack up skill and nothing much to it. So let's have a look at the second one, log off shattered time. So I set up a bit my squad here and also did some stuff so I can show 2 variations of it. First off, Mostima's in the front. It's once again the stage with Faust because I like the stage because he will heal up the enemy so you can see if she can burst someone down without help or if she needs someone else to help. And her skill is now ready, and I'll use it when the big guy moves. And now you can see the stun is really great. Her damage is okay. She didn't manage to bring down the caster, she didn't manage to bring down the big guy, and my Mostima is Elite 2 level 60. That's important for information here. So she can slow down the battle a bit, but she didn't manage to kill. Now I boost her up with everything I got and activate the skill again. This makes a difference. You can see now she was able to kill a lot more. But then again, you need Sora, you need Warfarin for this. As you can see here, with the buffs activated, I can bring her up to 1620 ATK. There are still some more things that you can do which you will not see in this ATK, which we'll talk later in the MathFun section. So let's jump to the second skill and see what I can do with this one. Same stage, different skill. I bring out Mostima a bit earlier now because I want her skill 3 to load up. And I prepare a bit. So just to recap what the skill 3 does, it increases damage, it gives a knockback, it increases my talent, And yeah, that's it. So let's see. Now I fire it up. The range is also increased. Right, I forgot about that. So it does some significant amount of damage, that's for sure. The knockback is nice, but it is only a minor knockback, so it can also only knock back small units. Bigger units will not be affected. And now it needs a long time to load up again. Really long time. And this is probably the bad part about the skill. But this fight is basically over now, so let's go on. Now with this video shown and talking about the skills, let's jump into our all favorite section, the MathFun. So Mostima needs some help to really deal some damage. What help can we get her? Eyjafjalla, Skyfire, Warfarin, Sora. Those were the ones that I used. Why? Eyjafjalla's talent increases caster's damage by 16%. Mostima is a caster. Skyfire's talent increases received arts damage by 18% for all blocked enemies. That's why I put Matterhorn right next to her so he can block some. Warfarin's skill can increase the ATK by 90%, and Sora's support can also increase the ATK by 100% of Sora's damage. So with a maxed out Mostima with 889 ATK, we can pump her up to 2376 damage, which is not a small amount of damage. So what is the issue? Well, first of all, if you really want to give out the big damage, you want to use her skill 3. If you use her skill 3, Skyfire falls out, because the knockback will remove the block from the enemies. If you use her skill 2, it's only 6 seconds that you can bring out this damage, which is not much. So once again, the time at her damage is just hard to play around with. Now this time around I won't do how many hits do I need to take down Patriot, because I feel like it's kind of unfair. Mostima is an operator that is created to deal AoE damage, so on a single target she will do less, and she will be less damage than Platinum, for example, and AoE casters, AoE snipers are not there to burst down one enemy. So if we would look at her as an AoE caster, or if we do look at her as an AoE caster, it's way better to just think about how many can she kill, and she can kill a lot if the situation is right. So there was a lot of negativity in my talk about Mostima, which doesn't mean that she's a bad operator, not at all. I do use her from time to time, and there are good use cases for her to bring her in. As an example, when we had the event to fight Mudrock, she was a key element of my strategy to deal with her. I did a heavy stun strategy with Chen, Texas and Mostima, basically creating a stun lock for multiple seconds, like 15-second stun lock on this one enemy, which really helped to bring her down. And there are other scenarios where you want to really focus down fast characters. You want to stun them in place to deal some significant amount of damage, slow them down so other operators can take care of them. And all of this works. You just need to know that you invest a high amount of DP into her, and her output is not as high as other operators would do. So she's a very situational character in this scenario, not as versatile as other operators would be. Now, before we go into the ranking of her, let's have a look at her skin, because she also got one. And the skin is called Epoche. I'm not 100% sure. New arrivals, and this was also a first day purchase for me. I love that skill, it looks amazing. It gives her this cleric vibe, this white robe. Both her staffs are in focus and golden, and from what I can see in her normal version, they're not golden, so it's also one more royalty aspect on top of her. And yeah, I just like the overall style and feeling it gives up. Also, this skin has some story attached to it, or some lore. So stay tuned for a lore video to hear more about the skin and what it has to offer from Mostima. Okay, so where does that bring Mostima on the tier list? I like her style, I like her character, I like her lore, and She was one of the first characters actually where I played the story, the Code of Brawl, and I was really sad when I didn't get her the first time around in a banner. I got her later in another banner actually, but this was one of the moments where I realized, oh my god, Arknights will break me because they do great characters, they introduce great characters, and if they're featured in a banner I really want them just because of their personality in the story. So purely for that I would love to give her an S rank, but she just falls off a bit in her skills and stats for me. So I need to bring her down to an A. Simply because she does have her utility, she does have her use cases, but they're not that often to make her a great S-class character in my opinion. She can deal a lot of damage, yes, but others can as well, faster. She can stun enemies, which is probably her strongest suit for me, but it's not needed that often, so you won't bring it in each and every stage. You can deploy her, you can burst, and then she's there for a while before she can do something else. So A rank in the end. I'm sorry, I would love to have it higher. And that's it. So this was the second part, or the second video of the Operator Spotlight series. Next up, the lore video will follow in a couple of weeks, and on Twitter I will once again ask what other operators you want to have. So make sure you follow me on Twitter and subscribe to this channel to be updated, and jump into the vote on Twitter the next time around I do it, so you can see your character being spotlighted here and also being discussed in the lore video. And until then, I see you next time, Doctors.